All right, everybody, welcome back to the deep dive.
Yes, welcome back.
Today, we are going to zero in on something that I think is super practical and will hopefully be immediately useful for all of our listeners.
Absolutely.
We are going to be talking about how to really nail your opinions in English in a way that allows you to express them clearly and confidently.
Yes.
Think back to times when you've been in a conversation, maybe at work, you're trying to suggest a new strategy for your team, or you're just having a casual conversation with friends. Maybe you're debating a movie that you just saw and you have this really strong opinion about it.
Yeah.
But somehow getting the why out smoothly,
Right.
getting that reasoning out just feels like you're trying to untangle headphones in your pocket, you know?
It's so true, and it's something that we can all relate to. And, what's interesting is that a lot of times that struggle to get your opinion out clearly in English isn't actually about your overall English level.
Right.
It's more about having the specific tools to be able to build that clear path between what you think and what you say.
It's so true. I think so often we think, oh, I need a bigger vocabulary. I need to, be able to use all these fancy words. But really, sometimes it's just those essential connecting words
Exactly.
that can make all the difference.
Yeah.
So we're talking about words like because, since, so that due to these are like the architects of a well-reasoned thought. And when you use these correctly, your ideas can really stand tall and shine.
Yes, and if we step back for a moment,
Wow.
when you are able to clearly and confidently lay out that reasoning, it automatically makes your opinion more persuasive.
Of course.
Because when people understand because behind your say, they're far more likely to connect with what you're saying and to trust the idea that you're putting forward.
Absolutely. So our mission today is going to be very focused and actionable.
Okay.
We are going to equip you with some really effective professional English connectors.
Yes.
And a simple structure.
Love it.
That you can use to express your opinions with, polish and power.
I like that, polish and power.
Polish and power. So by the end of this, deep dive, you should feel so much more confident
Yes.
in not only just having opinions, but in articulating them.
Yes.
Without any hesitation.
Yeah, let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start by laying the foundation.
Okay.
And the foundation really lies in a very basic three-part structure
Okay.
that native English speakers often use, almost without even realizing it.
Okay, so 3 simple steps to getting your point across.
Exactly.
Clearly. Okay, step 1, state your opinion directly.
Yes.
Don't bury the lead.
Don't bury the lead.
Like they say in journalism.
Exactly.
Get right to what you think.
Yes.
You can use very simple starters like I think I would say, I feel, it's about planting your flag in the sand right away.
Yes, that directness is key. It immediately signals to whoever's listening to you where you stand on a particular topic, and it provides a very clear starting point for the rest of your explanation.
Yeah, and then comes step 2.
Okay.
This is where our unsung heroes, the connectors, really get to shine.
They come into play.
They do. This step is all about answering why.
Why?
Why you hold that opinion.
Yeah.
Because as we touched on earlier, strong opinions aren't just, plucked out of thin air.
Right.
They're supported by reasoning.
Yeah.
And connectors like because and since are really fundamental for building that support.
They're the bridge. They're that vital link that smoothly takes you from that initial statement of your opinion to the reasoning that's going to back it up.
And then finally, step 3, bring it all home with a conclusion.
Okay.
Or even a question.
Yes.
This provides a sense of completeness to your thought.
Right.
And it can also invite the other person into the conversation. So you might just restate your main point in a slightly different way, or you could ask something like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a fantastic way to shift from simply stating an opinion to really opening up a dialogue.
Right. So let's look at a couple of examples to see how this works in real life.
Okay, let's do it.
So imagine you're chatting with friends after seeing a movie. Yeah.
You could say something like, I thought the new Wicked movie was fantastic because the actors truly captured the essence of the characters, and it really stayed true to the original story. What did you guys think?
Right. So in that example, you're clearly stating your opinion right up front. You like the movie, and then you're using because to seamlessly weave in the reason why you enjoyed it so much.
Exactly. And then you end with a question.
Yes.
That opens it up to everyone else.
Keeps the conversation flowing.
Exactly. Okay, here's a more workplace appropriate example.
Okay.
Maybe you're discussing project deadlines with your team. And you could say something like, I believe we need to reconsider the project timeline.
Okay.
Since the current deadlines don't allow for thorough quality control, what's your perspective on this?
Okay, so you're doing the same thing there. You're stating your opinion clearly about the deadlines and then using since to bring in the reasoning. And it's almost like since is signaling that it's a pretty apparent reason, right?
Yeah, it's like a shared understanding. Shared understanding that everybody's already aware that there's not enough time for quality control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can see how this simple three-part structure, especially when paired with the strategic use of connectors,
Yes.
makes your ideas easier for others to follow and ultimately much more convincing.
Much more persuasive, yes.
Okay, so now let's get into some specific categories of these indispensable connectors.
I like it.
Okay, category number 1, connectors that explain cause and result. This is all about articulating why something happened or what the direct consequence of an event was.
Right. So we're really getting to the heart of
Exactly.
why something is the way it is.
Yes, and this category is so crucial because when you share an opinion, the immediate follow-up question in anyone's mind is why?
Yeah,
Why do you think that?
of course.
So these connectors can help you directly answer that question.
Exactly. They equip you to give those reasons.
Okay, so let's start with the cause, the reason why.
Okay.
And probably the most common connector
Your workhorse.
that we use for this is because
It's because
very simple it means for this reason.
for this reason.
So you could say something like, I enjoy working at this company because the people are so incredibly supportive.
Simple, straightforward, gets the point across.
And then we have since. Now, since is a little bit interesting because it often implies that the reason is already known. It's obvious.
It's a given.
It's a given.
It sets the context.
Yes. So you could say something like, since it's such a gorgeous day today, let's take our meeting outside.
I love that idea.
It's almost like you're saying, given that the weather's nice.
Right, exactly.
Okay, moving on, we have due to and because of. And these are pretty similar in meaning to because,
Yeah.
but due to is a little bit more
A
formal,
little more formal.
while because of is more common in everyday conversation.
Everyday speech.
So you might say, my train was delayed due to a track obstruction, or the outdoor event was canceled because of the heavy rain.
Right. And as our sources point out, although the meaning there does overlap with, because it's important to pay attention to what comes after those two phrases in terms of the grammar.
Exactly, and that leads us to a very important grammatical point.
Right.
Due to and because of are always followed by a noun or a noun phrase, like we heard in those examples, track obstruction, heavy rain. You can't follow them with a full clause
Right.
that has its own subject and verb.
Yeah.
So it's incorrect to say I was late due to it was raining.
Right.
The correct way to say that would be I was late because it was raining.
Because it was raining.
Yeah. And then we have one more connector for indicating cause, and that is as.
As.
And as is used when you want to really highlight the result of a particular situation.
Okay.
So, for example, you could say, as our favorite bookstore has closed down, we'll have to order all of our books online now.
Right. So it creates that link between the cause, the bookstore closing, and the effect, now you have to buy your books online.
Exactly. And it emphasizes that consequence. Okay, so we've explored connectors that show the cause. Now let's look at connectors that show the result or what happened as a consequence of something,
Okay. The outcome.
the outcome. And for this, we have so, which indicates a very direct outcome or consequence. So you might say, I focused really intently on that presentation, so I think it went really well.
Very direct. Very clear.
Straightforward. And then we have the phrase, which is why, and this connector can be used to explain a reason either at the beginning or the end of a sentence.
Okay. Interesting.
So you could say the team collaborated exceptionally well, which is why we delivered the project ahead of schedule. Or you could say we delivered the project ahead of schedule, which is why the team collaborated exceptionally well.
I see. So the first one kind of emphasizes the positive outcome a little bit more.
Yes, exactly. And probably in that scenario, you would want to highlight the positive outcome.
Right. Okay.
So that gives us a good set of connectors for explaining why something happened. Now let's move on to our second category,
Right.
connectors that express purpose.
Purpose?
So this is all about explaining why you did something.
Okay.
What was the intention behind your actions or the decisions that you made?
So we're going deeper. Now we're looking at the motivations.
Yes, the motivations.
Behind actions.
Exactly. And first up in this category, we have in order to.
Okay.
Now, this one is a little bit more formal, and it really emphasizes your specific intention.
Okay.
So, for instance, you could say, I'm taking this advanced English course in order to communicate more effectively with international clients at work.
So you're really highlighting the intentionality
Yes.
behind taking that course.
Exactly. And then a more informal, everyday alternative to in order to is simply to.
To just two.
Yeah, just to. So you can say, I joined this online community to improve my conversational English skills.
Much more casual, much more direct. Yeah.
Exactly. And the third connector in this group is so that.
So that.
And so that emphasizes the ultimate desired result of your action.
Okay.
So you could say, I'm practicing my pronunciation every day so that I can speak more clearly and confidently in meetings.
So the goal is to speak more clearly and confidently.
Exactly. And you're highlighting that with so that.
Okay.
Now, this is where it can get a little tricky because we've got so and we've got so that.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's clarify the difference between the two.
Okay, good idea.
So if I say, I took the larger suitcase so that I could bring back more souvenirs from my trip.
Okay.
So that very clearly indicates my purpose for choosing the larger suitcase.
Right, you wanted to bring back those souvenirs.
Yes, and I wanted to make sure I had enough space.
Yeah.
But if I were to say I took the larger suitcase so I was able to bring back more souvenirs from my trip.
All right.
So highlights the result.
The result.
It might not have been my primary reason for taking the larger suitcase, but it was a consequence.
Yeah, it's like a nice bonus.
Exactly.
In that case.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that intention.
Intention. So
Result.
result. Okay, got it.
All right, let's move on to our final category of connectors. Connectors for adding more reasons.
It's because one is never enough.
One is never enough. You might have a whole list of supporting points that you want to convey.
Right. You want to make that argument really strong.
Exactly. And we want to make sure you have the tools to do that.
Yes.
So first up, we have another reason is...
Another reason is okay.
Pretty straightforward. It signals that you're about to introduce a separate second reason.
Okay.
So for example, I really love living in this neighborhood because it has such a great community feel. Another reason is that it's really close to all the amenities.
So you're listing out multiple reasons why you love that neighborhood.
Exactly. And then we have plus, which is a more casual way.
More informal.
More informal.
Yeah.
To add in an additional point. So you could say, this new coffee shop has amazing coffee, plus their pastries are absolutely to die for.
Oh, they had me a pastry too.
Oh, then me too. And then we have also, which is very neutral, very common.
Made a comment, yeah.
Connector for adding information. So for example, working remotely offers me way more flexibility in my schedule. Also, it saves me a ton of time and money on commuting.
Good point. Very true.
And then finally, we have on top of that.
On top of that, okay.
And this one really adds emphasis.
Okay.
And it can even highlight a surprising or particularly compelling point.
Like it's an added bonus.
Yeah, an added bonus. So for example, I find this online learning platform really effective because the lessons are so well structured and engaging. On top of that, the support from the instructors is phenomenal.
So it's like that extra layer that makes it even better than you expected.
Exactly. And just like we talked about with due to and because of,
Yeah.
there's a grammatical rule to keep in mind here.
Okay.
On top of that, and another reason is can only be used at the beginning of a sentence.
At the beginning.
You can't just stick them in the middle of a clause.
Got it.
Okay, so let's recap what we've talked about today.
Okay, let's do it.
We started by outlining a really simple but effective three-part structure for expressing your opinions.
Right.
So first, you state your opinion clearly, then you explain your reasoning using those awesome connectors.
Our favorite connectors.
Our favorite connectors, and then you wrap it up with the conclusion.
Nice and neat.
Nice and neat.
I like it.
And we explored three categories of those connectors: cause and result,
Purpose.
and adding more reasons. So you now have a solid framework and a great set of tools to really articulate your thoughts and beliefs clearly and effectively in English.
You do.
So to really put this into practice today, I have a challenge for you.
Okay, I love a challenge.
I want you to answer this question. Why did you choose to learn English?
Oh, that's a good one.
It is a good one, and I want you to try to answer this using at least two of the connectors that we talked about today.
Okay.
You can start with phrases like, I began learning English because, or I'm studying English so that, or even one reason is.
Another reason is.
Another reason is, yeah. So give this a try. See how it feels to consciously use these connectors to structure your thoughts.
It's a great way to internalize all this great information that we've covered today and to start building that confidence in using these connectors naturally in your English.
Yes, and as a final thought, I really want to encourage you to start actively thinking about how you can incorporate these connectors into your everyday conversations and your writing.
Yeah.
Notice how they help you organize your reasoning and how they can make your opinions sound more confident, more well-supported.
And you know what, as a final thought to take with you today,
Yes.
Being mindful of how you use these connectors isn't just about boosting your English communication skills. It actually can deepen your own thought process.
Wow, I love that.
It can help you structure your reasoning more logically and make your perspectives even more impactful in any language.
That is fantastic advice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you everyone for listening to the deep dive. We will see you next time.
See you next time.